Hi everyone, my name is Khanh and I'm the co-founder of Inspius. At Inspius, we are your access to the best tech talents in Vietnam. Recently, we just launched a new product, Hack.ht. Hack is a coding assessment platform that applies AI to help companies to screen software engineers faster, more accurately, and more cost-effectively. Right now, Hack is available for free beta sign-up. So please give it a try and we're happy to receive any feedback and comment from you guys. I will leave the link to our product, inspius.com and hack.ht in the description down below. Welcome to our new podcast series, From 1 to 100. A podcast series that is tailored to business owners of tech startup and small and medium enterprises, featuring practical lessons to get your business to the next level. Discussion topic will range from building better tech team, overcoming business challenges, and specific application of AI in your business. And I look forward to seeing you in this podcast series. Yes, so hi everyone. My name is Khanh and I'm the co-founder of Inspius. Today we have with us Melvyn. He is the co-founder of BefinityAI. He is one of the top LinkedIn AI voice. In the past 1 year alone, Melvyn has trained more than 200 professionals across Singapore, spanning across more than 50 organizations within Singapore itself. It's a privilege to have you here today because our topic today will be centered around what you have been so passionate all about. I understand that you have a very broad background and spanning way back before the .com. Today we just will focus on your experience in the past 2 years about training people or maybe upgrading people's skill in terms of their AI capabilities. To introduce some context to our conversation, just last year December in our Singapore AI national budget, Singapore targeted to more than triple AI workforce to about 15,000 in the next 3 or 5 years. On the same note, according to a survey done by IDC or International Data Corporation, it says that more than 35% of the companies in the Asia Pacific region quote the lack of AI talent as one of the biggest, or if not the biggest, limiting factor in their ability to apply AI or Gen AI. The topic today that we are going to talk about is how to get your workforce, especially for SMEs and tech startups, to be AI ready. Yes, because the demand for AI talent in the next few years could be enormous. Happy to hear all the story from you, Melvyn.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Sure. Yes.
Yeah.
So I thought this topic can be quite overwhelming to any business owner or the audience. So let's start somewhere simple, right? In your experience, what are some of the simple and straightforward area in which organization, especially for SME, can get the employees to apply AI or Gen AI to increase their productivity?
Yeah, I mean, thanks for having me, and really enjoy the ability to be able to share what I've experienced in the last year or so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think very immediate thing that SMEs or companies can do to help their employees get to be AI ready is essentially learning how to use AI properly. Many people are just using AI or ChatGPT in particular, like a search engine or as a chatbot kind of thing. While it's supposed to do that, however, the potential of that tool it's way more. Yeah, and so I've been teaching many people about simple things like prompt engineering, right? So how do you write prompts? How do you go from very generic prompts to very specific prompts? So if I can give you an example, right? So some people would say that give me 7 ideas for my Facebook post for the next 1 week, right? And so of course ChatGPT would be able to do a fairly decent job of giving you ideas. However, if you just change the prompt a little bit, just by saying that, hey, give me 7 ideas for people who are experiencing anxiety, right? or people who wants to immediately apply AI in their work, the 7 ideas would be very, very different. Yeah, so sometimes just by choosing some of this what we call modifiers, whether it's about a problem or whether it's targeted at a group of people, just by simple modification of the prompt would definitely give you better output itself.
Okay, so this is for corporate context as well, right? So for the employees of SMEs. So maybe like we can dig into a specific industry and maybe like compare between like the way that people usually use ChatGPT and the way that you think people should use ChatGPT. And maybe like we can like delve into one example so that, for example, let's say like some of the SME business owner are here, or maybe like some of the employees, they will know exactly how they can increase their productivity using ChatGPT prompting.
Yeah, sure. So I think one aspect that any company can, and particularly SMEs, because as SMEs ourselves, we are always tight in terms of resources, in terms of manpower, in terms of time. And so what ChatGPT can do is really it can give us that tremendous amount of output in a very short period of time, provided if we learn how to use it most effectively. Yeah. And so one way that you can definitely look at is, let's say, in the area of creating marketing collaterals, whether it's in the form of EDM or whether it's a form of marketing email or even social media posts, for example. In the past, they would be hard pressed to come up with ideas, but if using the right prompts and using the right ways of prompting itself, they would then be able to come up with a ton of ideas, and some of these ideas will be very good ideas that are implementable. So that's something that they could implement immediately. So as an example, when I work with one of the healthcare company here in Singapore, public traded company here in Singapore, one of their main struggle was they had to churn out a lot of reports, right? And because they are a public traded company, they had to churn out reports for investors, report for analysts, so various forms of reports. And crafting those reports take a lot of time. And at the same time, of course, yes, it requires a certain level of technical capability to write those reports. However, you can actually get AI to do the first draft for you. The way that they could be, or the way that they have been implementing now is that they get AI to do the first draft, and then they get the human to go through the details to make sure that the details are accurate. And then finally, they get AI to kind of do the editing before they ship it out. Yeah. So by doing that itself, it really cuts down the amount of time. Because, just by using ChatGPT, for example, they can immediately pull out information from a few sources, right, very quickly and put them together into that initial report itself.
So you mentioned that AI was involved in two stages. First is like proposing the first draft, and second is that after we human have confirmed that the first draft is okay, then we will do another revision to make it better. After that, it will be like a human to confirm that the final version is ready.
Yes.
So that is the process.
Yes. I always emphasize that the human has to be involved, right? It shouldn't be like, oh, I'll let the AI do the thinking, I'll let AI do all the work itself, and I just sign off my name. That shouldn't be the case. It's always more about how we can augment our skill sets by using AI rather than replacing what we used to do with AI itself. Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like quite a number of our audience will have like this question because just now you use AI and then human and then AI and then human. So actually human become like some kind of editorial. So does that generate more work? Because we need to review the products of AI rather than we just do it by ourselves.
Yeah, so the way that you look at it is that the first draft, if the human were to do the first draft itself, it might take them a long time because they would have to go through a few information, articles, statistics to pull all that together. So as an example, in the past, one of the clients, they used to take about 2 hours to do a first draft of a proposal. Yeah, and that's from information from the client, information from the team that was working on this project itself.
Process.
Yeah, right. So it takes them 2 hours to get that together. But now with AI, they can get the first draft out in 1 minute 30 seconds.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that is a huge time saving.
Yeah.
From 2 hours to 1.5 minutes.
Yes.
Is that
Yes.
okay? Really?
Yeah. Yeah. So at the push of a button, of course, that piece of AI is not your ChatGPT. It's a custom built AI itself. But it's really not that difficult for you to be able to put something like that together. All you need is some API calls, and that's it.
And because just now you mentioned about healthcare, so also one the privacy issue, as in whether the data that we input will get somehow spread out. It might hinder the confidentiality of the document.
Yeah, so data privacy and data security has always been a big thing. Among all companies, big and small. And so that's why there are different solutions out there, like Copilot for 365, kind of ensure that everything is within your Azure server itself. But something that I think many people didn't know is that if you use the OpenAI API calls, none of those information will be used to train their models. That's what it's published on their website. Really depends on how much faith you have in the company, right?
Yeah. So what are you saying is that even for the public version or the public API that we can like readily access,
Yes.
if our data will not be used.
Yes.
So okay.
Yeah.
So let's say like if we do not trust OpenAI, then do you have any solution for that?
Yeah, well, at this point in time, I think for SMEs, it's going to be quite difficult because to have your own private large language model is going to be extremely expensive, and it's going to be totally inefficient. So it's like when computers first started out, you may not buy a computer because it costs so much and it's so huge. Yeah, so someone was telling me, just to give it a little bit of perspective, to train 2 terabyte of information, it requires 2 weeks and $2 million.
Wow.
Yeah, so I don't think I don't think at this point in time, at the consumer level, we have that kind of possibility to do it. And besides, how much data do we have to train the machine itself?
I see.
Yeah.
After this initial implementation of very simple area of the business, we have like some confidence boosting like to the companies that our employees can apply AI to increase their productivity. We want to talk more about the medium and long-term planning, because if it's just a one-off thing, then we are not really like using AI to its full advantage and full strength. So we want to implement it in the long run, and after what drive the initiative in the long run will be like the management level. So what can the organization do to empower or upskill their current management level so that they can have the strategic thinking and strategic capability to plan or incorporate AI into like the development of their organizations?
That's a good question, and I think that will require a good bit of mindset change. The way I look at it is that you're probably going to see like 2 waves of impact of AI on businesses. One is, of course, you are definitely going to look at what am I currently doing and what can I replace that with AI, or how can I replace that with AI? And that's something that I think we're already seeing happening, albeit at a small level. But I think people are beginning to realize that, hey, if I do not do that, I will be seriously left behind, right? I would lose my competitive edge. So that's one wave. The next wave where we have not seen is the rampant or the prevalent use of AI across all business processes and the entire strategic thinking process itself. Yeah, and so that would require us to perhaps rethink the way that we do our business. So if I give you an example, in our company, we have always been doing training and development, and I mean myself have been doing a lot of training for professionals. And I think one of the main struggle is that you go and attend a training, you learn all these fancy frameworks and models and approaches, right? How many of us are able to not just implement it immediately, but implement it with a level of proficiency, right? So it probably takes you a while to be able to implement it immediately, let alone to be able to implement it at a level of proficiency, right? We have been thinking really hard, and the question we've been asking ourselves is, why hasn't AI disrupted this yet? Right? Why hasn't AI disrupted this yet? I mean, when you go for a course these days, it's still pretty much the same. You know, someone teaches you, get you to do some hands-on activity, you experience it, and that's it. And so we have started to implement this thing called AI augmented learning experience, whereby we teach them the framework, then we teach them how to use AI and apply those framework in using AI to solve real world problems. So to give you an example, right, we teach people in terms of conflict management. Okay, and so there are various models, but one of the models says that there are 5 different conflict management styles. And of course, you know, when you go through a course for 2-day course, you learn it and you kind of have an understanding of what it is. But to be able to use it effectively and proficiently, it's going to take time. So now what we do is we incorporate AI into it. So we say that now, instead of you looking and coming up with all the different scenarios, let AI do the job, right? Let AI generate all these different scenarios for you, and then you decide which is the best approach. Immediately, you understand a framework, you use that framework with AI, and then from there, from the AI output, you know exactly like what to do. At the management level, it really helps them to be able to very quickly see different point of view, different perspective, and to be able to explore different possibility very quickly. Yep.
So maybe like to help our management. So do you have a framework, maybe a draft framework, so that the management level they can approach their business and then they can figure out what can be done in terms of AI development?
Yeah. So a way to think about that is that, you know, in our company, we have this approach whereby we say that first thing first, you take a discovery approach, right? And so the discovery approach meaning you look at your current processes, you look at where you could immediately implement AI and see that significant productivity gains. You implement that immediately, right? However, coming from the perspective of the employer, that is good news, right? But if you look at it from the perspective of the employees, that may be quite overwhelming, and that could be quite stressful, and that could be quite scary as well, because you are effectively telling me that what I used to do now can be done by AI.
Yeah.
And not just the AI, but it can do like 20, 100, 1,000 times more. And AI doesn't call in sick, it doesn't need CPF, you know,
Yes.
and all that. Yeah, and so from an employee point of view, I think there is a lot of concerns as well. The suggestions that we have is have a dialogue with the employees. Sure, I mean, there will be some jobs that will be displaced, and we will see this job disappear over time, right? And that is inevitable. However, you know, many of us these days, we still do quite a fair bit of knowledge work. And so we can look at how we can upskill our workers so that they could do more higher value added things. Yeah.
I think earlier we also like mentioned that Singapore aims to triple its workforce, AI workforce, in the next 3 or 5 years. In the end, we still only have about 15,000 AI talents, and in Singapore, as of now, there are already more than 300,000 SME, and not even counting the big players. So even like if Singapore achieve like its target in AI workforce, then we still don't have enough talents for everyone. So one of the approach, and probably the more practical approach, is to upgrade your current workforce to be AI ready. What are some of the resources or steps you think that organization can take to get the workforce to be ready for the next revolution in technology, specifically AI?
Yeah, so when we talked about this, I mentioned earlier on that I think the most immediate thing that companies can do is to get their employees to learn how to use AI correctly. Yeah. And so when I say correctly, what I meant is they understand how to use it in such a way that it gives them the most relevant and the most useful results. Because right now, some people are using it as a afterthought, or some people are using it as like a toy. So my point of view is that really to get them to learn how to use AI correctly and effectively. And so the fastest way to do that, and of course the good thing about Singapore is we have this thing called Skills Future. There are many courses that are funded by WSQ or subsidized by WSQ that looks into the area of using AI and how to use AI effectively. I would suggest that anyone who is seriously considering looking for some of those courses, and I want to say this, and full disclosure is that I have my own WSQ courses. So I just want to be on a fair basis itself. I think what is more important is to choose a course that teaches you how to use it in an application context and not learning AI on its own.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so what I mean by that is that because there are courses that just talks about, all right, this tool, what does ChatGPT do? What does Midjourney do? What does Stable Fusion do? All that kind of different aspect of it. So you get a broad view, what are the various tools. However, you still do not know how to use it effectively. Yeah, so I would recommend that if you are looking for a course, really look at a course that says that, okay, perhaps it's on area of like content creation, perhaps it's an area on automation in terms of admin, finance, HR processes, and how you can use AI in that context itself.
So actually, what you are saying is that like we shouldn't learn AI as in like learn its feature in a very generic way, but rather to how to learn AI specifically in our job.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is will be like more useful and practical.
Yeah.
And you can like get an immediate ROI out of your time and money.
Absolutely. So it's like, you don't sign up for an Microsoft Excel class, right? Unless you are someone who use a lot of spreadsheet, who needs, all the VLOOKUP tables and pivot tables and all that. And you use it on a day-to-day basis, and previously you are like, every time I need to do that, I need to look up some resources. Then of course, when you go for a course like this, it's going to help you. You know what I'm saying? So, you can of course go and learn Excel in its generic form. That I would say more for personal growth rather than for productivity. Yeah.
Understand, because I also know that you have your own course in mastering AI. So what skill set do you teach people?
There are two key components when it comes to using any form of AI tool, particularly ChatGPT or any generative AI tool, right? And the two key components are basically prompt and training data, right? So the example that I always like to give is that I will pull out ChatGPT, even the ChatGPT 4, right? I will pull out ChatGPT 4 and I'll just type in, give me the share price of Starbucks in the last 6 months. And it will not be able to do that. Why? Because that information is not in the training data. Yeah, and so even with the best prompt, you will not be able to get the output, right? Now, but most of the things that we are talking about here, it's already in the training data itself, right? And I say most. Way is to figure out how to write your prompts in such a way that you can get the best result. And when I say best, what I meant is most useful and relevant, and not some generic ideas that you look at it and you say, hey, even I can come up with those ideas, right? Yeah. So you want to use it in such a way that it gives you that level of edge, and so that's what I teach in the Mastering AI. So that's one component. The other component is that I think many people fail to understand that the training data, it's predominantly leaning towards the Western culture. Many of the ways that, if you ask it for some advice or you ask it for some strategy in terms of marketing or something like that, it's very much, Western culture leaning. Yeah, and so one way to test that very simply is to use a framework. Okay, and there is this framework called Hofstede 6 dimensions.
Okay.
All right, and that 6 dimension basically compares, 6 dimensions between the Western culture and the Eastern culture. So to give you an example, right, in the US, the individualism is very huge. It's about me, it's about I have my rights and so on and so forth, right? But in this part of the world, we are very much a collective culture, right? We do something because, we want to be accepted in the culture, whether for good or for worse, right?
Okay.
But that is the way that we grow up, and that's our environment itself. If you just use that filter after ChatGPT gives you the output. Let's say you ask it for some marketing strategy, it gives you the marketing strategy. Then you use that filter and you say that now, I am operating in Singapore and using this Hofstede 6 dimension, tweak it such that it's more, it kind of more aligned to our culture itself. You will see that differences. Yeah, so I teach them in terms of how to recognize the biases. And sometimes you can use the biases to your advantage, right? Because if you want to, let's say, market to the US market, and let's say you have never been to the US before, and everything that you learn about the US is from movies itself, you will be in for a big shock, right? In that sense, you could lean into the AI's biases to give you something that you never would have thought of. Because we don't, at least for me, I don't grow up in the US culture itself. So how can we use that bias either for or counter that biases, to recognize that biases and to be able to take advantage of that? Yeah.
I see. So I feel like overall, in order for organization to level up their current workforce to be AI ready next time, so they should really take advantage of the government grant. For example, like the Skill Future, or in the case WSQ, to level up the current employees. And for the employees, if you are going to take the courses related to AI, it's rather to take something that are specific to your jobs, so that you can apply it immediately rather than taking some generic courses.
Yeah.
So that is the overall method. Yeah. Do I get you correctly?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because the government is giving the grants for SMEs and individuals, so we definitely should see how best we could leverage those grants and to upskill ourselves.
After the next topic we want to talk about is more on the subjective side of implementation of AI, because as you mentioned just now as well, but it also quite a prominent issue when companies trying to develop their AI within their organizations, is that it might affect the current employees in one way or another, because the AI development actually got a lot of people worried about job displacement, and even our Minister of State, Melvyn Tan, he also said that a lot of these workers will be managers, professional, executives, and technicians. So I want to ask, maybe to delve a little bit deeper in this topic about how organizations can manage these concerns from the employees, so that when they apply AI, there won't be a backlash from the employees which might hinder the effectiveness of their AI program. So just now you mentioned that have a dialogue with your employees to assuage this concern. What else can be done?
I think it will need a bit, in Singapore's term, it will always need what they call a tripartite approach, because this situation cannot be resolved by either the employee themselves, the employer, but it requires the government to come in as well. At one level, at the individual level, the employees has to want to upskill, because if they are not willing to embrace the technology, unfortunately they will be left behind. In the course of history, we have always seen some of these jobs that are lost due to technology change. So at the employee level, really, it's the level of willingness, right? And I think we have the model right, in the sense that the funds are there. However, it depends on the individual's desire to tap into these funds to upgrade themselves. On the employer side, for SMEs, it's, if you ask me, I think it's probably too much to ask of the employers to do more than they could. Because I think predominantly one of the biggest concern with SMEs, and I think still very much to this day, is that what if I train my workers, they become so good, and then they leave, or they go and work for the competition? So that, to a certain extent, has made employers reluctant to want to upskill their workers itself. That's where the incentive comes in to tip them over, that say that, well, if you send your people for training, we will give your company additional funds, or we will give your companies additional incentive. And so that kind of helps the company allay some of these fears, and also to help them in terms of that defraying the cost itself. And of course, at the policy level, I think the government will have to take into account that there will be people who will be displaced, and there has to be some way of reskilling these people. And I would like to think that in today's context, we do not have lack of opportunities to upskill. Of course, you could do it for free, like watching a ton of YouTube videos and only finding 2 really good ones. Or you could attend a well-structured course that teaches you how to leverage AI. You know, at this rate that we are going, we probably will run into a situation whereby a sizable amount of people will be left behind, especially the PMETs, because right now this tool is not targeting at people who are doing manual work. Yeah, it's targeting people who are doing cognitive work. We do not know how to use AI to augment our capabilities, then it's going to be an issue. Which is why I'm very careful in using this word, augment our capability, because I still believe that as human, we are able to do many things that AI cannot do. And so we need to leverage AI to do what we are really good at, and to amplify that. Yeah, and so not so much as in replacing, but more of making us more effective, more efficient. Yeah.
Because you have trained so many professionals, across various organizations. In those organizations, how are they addressing this issue?
I think they are addressing this issue at 2 or 3 levels. So at one level, it's really at the functional level, and that is really allowing the employees to explore what are the ways that they could use AI to help them to be more effective and more efficient. That's where many of them comes in here. They're saying that I have been doing this sort of work, it's repetitive, sometimes I have to draft press release, it takes me a long time. I want to come in here to learn how to use AI to do that. Yeah. So at one level, it's more at the functional level. At another level, I think companies are asking me to guide them, and that's more at the process redesign level. And at the process redesign level, it means that in the past, we used to do it this way. Now with AI, how can we change it so that AI becomes integrated and not just an add-on, but AI becomes integrated, and how we could do it, differently, right? So an example would be, one of our clients is a funeral business. In the past, when someone has a need for bereavement services, what would they do? They would pick up the phone and they would call the person, even if it's 3 a.m. at night. That used to be the case, right? And so the idea is that, can we replace that with a first cut of using a chatbot that is able to empathize, sympathize with the situation?
Comfort the people.
Yeah, and to give accurate information. Until I spoke to the person running this funeral business, I didn't know that there are so many types of situation which, when someone passed on, what are the things to do? And so in that respect itself, it's really at a redesign level, right? It's looking at, okay, this is how we used to do it in the past. Now, can we bring in AI to help us in the process itself? And that's at the redesign level. Of course, at the most strategic level, which I think only 1 or 2 of the clients that I've worked with have that capacity and the resources to undertake that endeavor. and that is how can I use AI strategically?
I see, I see. So just now you mentioned that a funeral business also has applied AI in their business.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, because it's one of the most traditional business.
Yes.
And they can actually apply AI. How do their employees take it? As in, do they feel that, hey, actually I no longer have the job? Or
No, so you see that the thing is that the interesting thing is that AI it's never. I mean, the joke is we say that AI is here, right? And AI is going to take over our jobs, right? I'm still waiting for that AI to be able to wash my dishes, dry my dishes,
Yeah.
take my clothes, wash them, dry them, and fold them. You know, I'm still waiting for AI to take over that job itself. Yeah, but that's not going to happen. On a serious note, things like very traditional businesses, many of those functions can never be replaced by AI. Someone to embalm the body, someone to be there with the family, that cannot be replaced by AI. I have to give credit to the owner because initially he was skeptical and he was so afraid that the AI might say the wrong thing to the family. And so when we did our testing, I asked him to ask the most ridiculous question to the bot itself, because that is how we are able to tease to see whether the AI would give you some rogue responses. So in that term, we call that adversarial prompting, right? That means we prompt it in such a way we try to get it to say something wrong or to say something rude or to say something insensitive, and we try to see whether it will go down that route itself, because there has been situations whereby that has happened. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that it doesn't happen, and so we train the bot in such a way that it takes care of that. Even in the traditional business like that, if you look deep enough, there are certain aspects of it that can be replaced by AI. And so the workers will still have their job because you will still need the manpower, right? The human touch.
as in, like what you say, a lot of times is that they will just augment their job, right? So they still need the one who do the physical jobs,
Yeah.
but actually that will make the job better because that now they do no longer need to wake up at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
to comfort someone,
Yeah.
right? So I thought like when we start implementing like these AI strategies, we also like want to have like some metrics to keep track of the effectiveness of our strategies, and that is like one part. But the other part, we also like want to see how the employee respond to these implementations. So what are some of the metrics that you think are essential that the management level need to keep in mind when implementing these strategies?
Yeah, that's a good question because we sometimes do get carried away with metrics and measure of success.
Mm-hmm.
So to give you a very good example, in the last couple of years, many of the restaurants that you go, you will encounter this experience. You will get someone who will show you to the table, and the person will tell you that they are not going to give you a menu. You just scan the QR code, and the menu is there. You order and you submit your order right there.
Phone.
Yeah, and in
Pay
some
there.
cases you even pay
Yeah.
on the phone itself. And so if you think about that, would that help from the company point of view? Would that help in terms of efficiency and productivity? For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Because now you do not need anybody to take the order, to send the order to the kitchen, and then after that to make sure that the order was correct, to ring up the check, and to collect the money. Right? All that has been taken care of by the app. Even in some country club, they have this machine, this robot, that would take the food from the kitchen to the table. Right? I'm sure you've seen
Of
some.
course. Some sushi restaurant.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And so technically speaking, you could replace the entire process with machines. You could see your productivity increase by 10, 20, 30, even 10, 100-fold. And you will see that your cost has really come down. And that's good for the company itself. But the question is that what the customer wants, right? Because sometime after a full day at work, we go to a restaurant. The last thing we want is to have to look at my phone
Again.
to order the food.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to tell someone I want this, can you get me? And be done with it. The point I want to make here is that, yes, from a company standpoint, we all want to save money, we all want to make more money, we all want to save time. However, that would also lead, if we just focus on that in itself, I think that would lead to more dissatisfied workers, and definitely workers would be low morale. Yeah, and so we definitely want a situation whereby the workers see that now my workload is partly taken care of by AI, and I am now able to do higher value added work. And because I'm able to do higher value added work, or work that I actually enjoy, that would increase my productivity, my job satisfaction. To that point, when you learn AI, don't just learn AI in its generic form, but learn how you could use it to augment your capability, yeah, so that we can all, improve at the same time. And of course, like I say, there will be, unfortunately or fortunately, there will be people who will be displaced. Now the question is, how are we going to very quickly equip them with a certain set of relevant skills so that they could be re-employed or redesigned or redeployed in other functions as well. Yeah.
So as like you are trying to promote a win-win AI development between like employers and employees, so that you not win at the expense of your employees.
Yeah.
As well, that concludes our episode today. Thanks a lot, Melvyn, for being with us and share all the stories and the practical lessons from your own practitioners. I wish you all the best for your journey, and I hope that you can empower more professionals in Singapore and even like more organizations in their journey of like embarking on AI development. Okay, thanks a lot, Melvyn.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
a lot, Melvyn.
Right.
Thank you everyone for watching this episode. If you find this content useful, please give us a like and subscribe to our channels. And I look forward to see you in the next episode.